Don't make me fight you. I am really good.
I don't believe you.
Wow, that was really good.
Hello friend, welcome to another episode of me sitting here chatting about some movie that I recently watched and loved, and today we're gonna talk about this absolute cultural phenomena, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. It is so hard to talk about this movie because it's just wacko. The only way that I can describe it in a nutshell is think if Matrix and Shang-Chi had a baby on steroid. The story follows Evelyn, a middle-aged Chinese immigrant stressed out about her laundromat business being audited by IRS, and she was struggling to finish her taxes before Lunar New Year. She has a disapproving father, a meek husband, and a rebellious daughter who's fighting to introduce her girlfriend to her family. And as if doing taxes isn't stressful enough for her, she was informed that she's also in charge of saving the multiverse.
I'm here because we need your help.
Very busy today. No time to help you.
A24 produced this movie, and in the past few years, the studio has been pretty prolific with show-stopping independent films. Before Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, there was The Farewell, there was Manali, there was The Last Black Man in San Francisco, all of which are some of the most groundbreaking films that were popularized in the US and tell a story from a diverse community with unprecedented authenticity. And there's so many stories of resilience and passion shared by this group of artists. This production is written and directed by Daniels. This duo is frankly well on their way to becoming film auteurs because of their distinct direction style and sense of humor. This whole movie was hilarious. Even when the situation's so dire for the characters, there are still pockets of humor bursting out here and there that tickles you while you're the most scared. I would just literally burst out laughing while I was gasping for air. It was just 2 hours of brilliant, emotional roller coaster. The pacing is very, very fast. It might be a little bit overwhelming for you if you're not used to fast dialogue or reading subtitles because this film is multilingual. But luckily, years of watching Gilmore Girls prepared me for this very moment. I was just so excited to see the dialogue this loaded and packed. And in terms of its storytelling structure, I need to once again express my love for the chapter technique that's used in this film. So it's broken down into 3 parts: Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. And it's just so beautifully and neatly done. And the end of part 1 was the most impressive with its film in the film trick that just left me stunned. Because it's a multiverse movie, there are so many unexpected switchovers from this very intense wild fighting scene to a complete quiet and stationary shot. And these transitions are so clever and unexpected and very necessary because the audience can use this to take a breather from all the sensory overload. Speaking of sensory overload, let's talk about the amazing visual impact in this film. It is such a cinematic experience. I literally feel like I was on psychedelic drug in the form of a feature film. Mom, if you're watching this, I have never done drugs. The storytelling is very ambitious in the sense that it double-clicked into at least 10 different universes in details. There are seamless switchovers between all these universes so frequently, kind of remind me of Sense8, and that just seems so incredibly impressive because that seamless switchovers takes a lot of detailed foresight and intentionality from the director to translate such complexity in the script to the actual shooting. I just remember being in the theater and I kept on thinking, first off, how the fuck did you write a script like this? And secondly, how the fuck did you translate that into screen and so successfully with so much information? Thirdly, this must cost a fortune. So I looked up the production cost. The production cost of this film is $25 million. And let me help you put that into context. For Shang-Chi, the production cost was $150 million. And for Doctor Strange and other Marvel movie that heavily relies on the CGIs and special effects, it's like $160+ million. For 1/6 of the production budget of a Marvel blockbuster, this film not only matched Marvel Productions' post-production quality, but also, dare I say, kicked their ass in terms of creativity. This is just a remarkable testament to how resourceful, creative, and scrappy this team has to be to bring such an ambitious vision to life with a relatively low cost. In my humble opinion, this movie is probably the best in the multiverse genre. Each universe was so in-depth. Sometimes the humor is a little bit disgusting, you know, with the hot dog finger they probably have seen in the trailer, but I just really appreciated how they really take time and unpacked every universe, and each universe take turn unfolding themselves and interweave together. Even though this film is so random at times, it wrapped itself so neatly with all the details, and it sent out such a strong and clear message at the very end that everyone hates doing taxes. other than the fact that everyone hates doing taxes. I think what the movie was trying to highlight is that for everyone that's going around this world, we constantly just feel like there's just too much thrown at us and that we're not good enough. We probably have such potential that we didn't get to fulfill, being trapped in our own reality. But sometimes it's so important to recognize that the single most important thing is to accept ourselves, accept our family, our loved ones, with all the good and bad, and just to appreciate everything you have been through to make you who you are, and to learn to cherish this one reality that we have.
Of all the places I could be, I just wanted to share with you.
Before we move on to the amazing cast, we're gonna talk about cultural representation, you know, my favorite topic to talk about in this channel. As I mentioned before, this film is trilingual. The majority of it is done in English, of course, but there are Mandarins and there are Cantonese dialogues. Bilingualism's effect in films sometimes walks a very fine line. In filmmaking, it is essential to reflect the increasingly globalized and culturally interwoven society that we live in now, but when not done carefully, which is not uncommon when the writing room is full of white men, it can easily feed into stereotypes and exoticism. Therefore, when making bilingual films, the dialogue should be very well researched and thoughtfully executed, which this film gets a A+ on, from casting to the actual delivery. That is a great segue to talk about this magnificent cast. So because it's a multiverse film, every main character has to take on at least 2 personas, sometimes even more, and every one of them delivered. They showcase such a wide range in their acting. You would never imagine Jamie Lee Curtis doing kung fu while having a saggy belly pounce to Michelle Yeoh in any other production. And it just goes to show that every single one of them are so committed to this production and was just so willing to step outside of their comfort zone and commit to this wacky universe. I'm gonna start with Stephanie Hsu, who I recognize because I saw The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and I already liked her performance there, but oh my god, her performance here exceeded my expectations. She was so great. There's this one hallway scene where she was just an absolute badass. It was one of the most bizarre scenes in the whole film, but wow, she committed. Her performance was impeccable. Michelle Yeoh, Yang Ziqiong. I think most millennials who didn't grow up in Asia probably just know her from Crazy Rich Asian, but she was such a goddess in Asian TV and film industry back in the 90s, and she was one of the main characters in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, 卧虎藏龙, which came out in 2000. It is a film by Ang Lee, and it is the first Chinese motion picture to win the Best Foreign Language Film at Oscar. The same year, it won 10 nominations in the Academy Award, which was just unprecedented until Roma tied the record 20 years later. With her career, she really witnessed the development Chinese cinema has gone through in this past 3 decades. Yeah, she's a true icon. And last but not least, I'm gonna talk about Ki Kwan, aka Jonathan. Jonathan's character was just like defying the meek Asian dad stereotype and makes it so endearing. And there's this fanny pack action scene where, which is such a tribute to those Jackie Chan kung fu movies, and he actually has that distinct style of Jackie Chan, and it just goes to show how brilliant his acting was. I didn't know him before because I didn't grow up in the US, but apparently he's a childhood of a lot of American millennial who grew up watching Indiana Jones or Goonies. After his success as a child star, he basically just disappeared from the acting world for over 2 decades because it was a tough time for an Asian actor like himself to find auditions even.
I just found myself waiting for the phone call for an audition, not even a job, but just an opportunity to audition.
Right.
And it came, you know, like once a year or once every 6 months, while my peers were like auditioning for like 2 times a week, 3 times a week, and they were doing movies after movies. And it was just really dispiriting. So I decided to step away from acting, went to film school. And I was content for many years working behind the camera.
It speaks to this weird business that we're in, where all of these talented people just want to do their thing and manifest their destiny as creative people, and the industry doesn't let them.
I couldn't sum it up better than what Jamie has said, but I'm just so glad that this movie found Ki and brought him back, because it is so unfair that we as audience was deprived of such talent for such a long time. A final word, would recommend anyone to see this movie just to see what it's about and just have that experience. It is such a great and fun film to watch, and it really is just mind-bending. It lets you feel things, it gives you all the cultural relatability. If you like sci-fi, if you like action, if you love that Asian American representation, definitely go watch this film. Some of the other film that I would recommend if you enjoy this one is Sorry to Bother You, which I also mentioned in one of my past videos. Sorry to Bother You had the same sense of like dystopian humor to it, and it was just absolutely batshit crazy and wacky. So yeah, that would be my film recommendation to those who are interested in seeing everything everywhere all at once. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you found this helpful, and hope you enjoy the film. Bye.